everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Turbocharge Tomorrow, fireside chats with innovators, visionaries, and leaders in technology. Joining us today is Kellie Romack. She's the Chief Digital Information Officer at ServiceNow. Thanks very much for joining us, Kellie.
I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, this is going to be a fun one. That little prep call we did before yesterday led to it's going to be a great call.
So many exciting things to talk about and share.
Oh, it's the right time. So to kick things off, as the Chief Digital Information Officer at ServiceNow, you're at the forefront of digital transformation for a number of companies. How do you approach balancing innovation with operational stability in this kind of fast changing landscape we have?
Fantastic question. We don't lift and shift or just move the past forward, right? So it's our job to reimagine the work for the future. Right? We are very purposeful and intentional on how we drive things forward. So we provide freedom within a framework. And of course, we have proper governance and securities and all of those things. We have to have that space for innovation. As you know, Ethan, and we talked about yesterday, AI is changing so fast. So we have to stay on the forefront. We consider ourselves these leaders, and in particular internally. So we have to do that internally. And of course, we manage our budgets and we show value and all of those things. And with AI, the outcomes and the maximization of that value is key. So we want to make sure that we're not just automating or creating for the sake of, but we're really driving it with purpose forward. And so we're able to rethink some of the IT operations that we've done in so many different ways. And I tell my team all the time, don't just automate the work, reimagine the work.
And how are you seeing that play out?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting, right? It's lots of different ways we're seeing it play out. So efficiency, it's not always about efficiency, right? The great news is you can be really efficient across when you're on a single platform to create a great experience, because you have to have experience, right? You have to have value, and then of course create efficiency with all of those things. So we're not perfect, but we love to try, learn, and then reimagine, and then improve over and over again. So my advice with AI transformation is we have to think about how we operate. How do you shift your priorities? How do the roles play out? And we can talk about talent if you want, because obviously you have to look at your operating model and your talent and how those work together with your business.
I mean, it's a good, dovetail into conversation about automation. So, with AI and automation reshaping business processes all over the place, right?
Right.
What is ServiceNow's strategy for integrating these technologies and really providing meaningful, measurable impact, but not just for the customers, but for the employees themselves?
Yes, absolutely. So as the CDIO, it's my job to understand what we say here is all four corners of our business. So I have to make sure I'm stretching across our business from our employees to our customers to our partners, and how we do that and how we partner with them. It's my job and my team's job to partner very closely with our C-suite and all of the colleagues that work in those organizations across the company, because we can't have AI strategies in silos. It has to be unified, right? So that unification is so important. And part of that is we have the opportunity, we are customer zero internally. It's amazing. So we see every product that we put out, our team takes it, adopts it, and puts it to work in a beta format. And we're able to do that. And then we're able to get results, give feedback, and help the product teams improve our overall product for our customers and partners. So I always say, we're running ServiceNow on ServiceNow. And it's the proof is in the technology and the experience. So we can point to it, we can show it, and then we have results on top of that. So that is definitely one way that we've done it. And then to your point, we've taken some of these use cases and we've looked at how does that impact revenue? How does that impact value? And we have so many use cases we put to work, Ethan. I think I told you about a few yesterday, and I'm sure we'll talk more about them today. We've seen $325 million in annualized value that we've saved across the company just to date, right? And how we're doing that with AI.
And I think that's been one of the challenges of AI, at least in the last 2 years, is trying to put a value to it. I think there's been a lot of conversation. There's a lot of futurism
Yes.
But I think that's a great point to the fact that we're at a place, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about that, about the value you're able to ascribe to AI
Yeah,
right now.
absolutely. And I feel like the best way to get there is, let me give you a couple of examples. So one example that's my favorite, and it's been in production, it's almost 2.5 weeks now, is we looked at how do we create a better way for our customers and our partners to solve any type of performance related cases, right? Performance is a complicated case. It can have all kinds of different attributes and data that we need to pull together. So we get lots of them. It's a high volume type of activity, everything from connectivity right to integrations to platforms across the board. So Ethan, get this. So in almost 3 weeks, we've seen the work reduced by over 50%. So we're taking something that took days to triage and complete to hours. And it's phenomenal. It's such a wonderful value to the agents doing the work, and then also the human agents helping to do the work, right? Our customer support engineers and our customers. I have been a practitioner for 25 plus years, so I know what it feels like to sit on that other side. And our goal is, how do we get things to quicker resolution and solve those problems for our customers? So I feel like that's a wonderful example, and we're putting that to work in lots of other areas in our customer support area as well.
I think what's kind of interesting about this is the role that AI is starting to have across departments, right? So,
Yes.
historically, we'll go way back, like 80s, 90s. The CTO, the IT department were just like the people who did the computers, right? Like
Mhm.
something goes wrong with the computer in marketing, the IT guy or girl
Oh, how
would come
times
help.
have changed, but keep going, keep going.
So it's the way that especially it seems like it's being like multiplied by AI, that it's starting to infiltrate technology, new technologies in new ways into new roles and responsibilities. How do you see that impacting, your role as the chief, digital and information officer?
Well, I get asked this question quite a lot, and I see it as incredibly exciting. And let me tell you why. Because we're not just an IT department, we're a business critical function. We drive decisions forward. They're impacting the entire organization. It's our job to connect the dots. I always say in the company, we need to thread that golden thread all the way across the company and look at ways that we can improve. If I go and improve something in our sales organization, is it applicable to my GDS side, right? To my legal side? How do I take it and scale it across the company to create more value? So we're looking at our role has totally changed. It's not just we're a cost center, we're driving revenue also for ServiceNow. And how we do that is we are, as I mentioned earlier, we're customer zero. So we're getting out there, and yes, we're helping make our products better, and we're running our business on ServiceNow. And I sit with customers every single week and hear their problems, hear the things that they're challenged with, and then help show them, here's some opportunities of how we're doing it internally, and show them our customer zero path forward first. Because I can, words are awesome, but the proof is in the technology and the experience. And when I show some of this data and response and how proactive and how hyper personalized the AI can be, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, and it's what's kind of interesting in a thread I'd like to pull here is this idea that traditionally CTO, CDIO was in charge of the technology portion of the company.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this is kind of your silo sometimes, and here's where you would be in charge of. And we're entering an interesting world where, especially at ServiceNow, since you're eating your own dog food, is that you are able to be part of the internal processes, so internal operations across departments within your own company,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're also interacting more with customers that I think folks would have traditionally done in this role prior to where we are today.
Right, absolutely. And I'll stop you there because I say at ServiceNow we drink our own champagne and eat our own cake instead of dog food, although I do love dog food because I have a dog. So I personally don't love it, but I give it to a dog. But so to your point, right, it's, we have to have unity inside the company, and value are top of mind for me because I have to pull across my C-suite peers, understand their problems. And we did a survey of so many IT leaders. 65% of them said, You're being pulled into all types of business problems. That is good. Technology is leading the path of the business now. So we get to have this opportunity to talk to these business owners, help bring solutions and solution with them. And that's magic. And that is part of my favorite part of the job internally. And it's a wonderful part of the job working with our customers to be able to do that, because we have to create simplification. That's the ultimate sophistication, right? It's a creating simplification and experience and and being able to mask all the complexities so that the user has an amazing digital experience with AI or agentic AI.
That's awesome. And yeah, I think I'd much prefer to drink my own champagne than eat my own dog
Exactly.
food.
My dog loves his dog food. He's great, but I'll take the cake.
Oh, right. And then what a way to we make good products. We don't make dog food.
That's
We
right.
actually make things you'd want to eat.
And we do. And I will double down. We use everything that we create. And like I said, my team tries it first. We are totally in there with our engineering and product teams that are working with our customers. And we blur the lines internally to create the best product forward, because it's all about getting to the best technology and continuing to evolve it and continuing to make it better.
That's interesting. Do you think, one thing that comes to mind is how do you take a traditional field where folks weren't really paying attention to outputs and results and revenue probably, and how do you start kind of leaning them into it, kind of not necessarily retraining them, but refocusing some aspects of their jobs, hey, you really need to start paying attention to that. Do you think that, drinking your own champagne and eating your own cake, does that help some of these folks in these roles where they may not have been paying attention to that previously to kind of bridge the gap?
100%. Some of the biggest advice that I give to leaders and other customers is to try it. Right now, we've already had 12 million plus AI supported searches and conversations. Right? We know that we've saved hundreds of thousands of hours. We're driving our developer productivity by 20%, and that's all by testing and using our own products. And so we're able to get results internally, understand the value, and then be able to translate that value to our customers. So to your point, we're always encouraging customers, or anyone out there who's listening, go use it and understand it. I love that AI has democratized technology in education. And so helping to understand it, learn it, lean into it, becoming a champion of it, right? And embracing it, it's going to just make technology groups and business groups so much better. We've done so many different things internally. We have AI training for folks. We have our own what we call our Now Assist that can help you answer any question, help be agentic for you, can help drive clarification. So we have it everywhere in our company. And one thing that I've learned, and I want to share this advice, whatever you do, you have to put it in the workflow of the human that's using it. Because creating a swivel chair where you got to come over here or you go over there, if you're in a session of work, you need it to be within your session and following along with you, and be hyper personalized for you as the person and what you're working on. For example, we've created something that we call Sales Hub, and it allows our sellers to be able to understand their accounts, understand what they're working on, understand who they are, what region they're in, and then help them determine the next best action. And sellers are, they're out there serving customers every single day. So we've definitely hypercharged some of the things for them. And we're also helping them as employees. I have to give this example. It's one of my favorite examples out there. So we had sellers who'd want to know, helping them understand what's their commission, where are they, how are they performing, and we were able to create an agentic experience for that 99% faster. So essentially, we've taken it from days to 8 seconds. I mean, mic drop. And it's been a huge win for our sellers, and it helps them don't worry less and create more productivity.
And I think part of, you spoke at TED AI in San Francisco last year, and when during that session, one of the things that kind of stood out to me is when you said, "Hey, our sales team is even starting to employ this," right? So
That's right.
It's not even hey, we have software developers who are starting to use it. It's not like we have the product manager, the product team, anyone who you would typically imagine would be an early adopter to these things, but you're looking outside those standard and probably safe zones and going out in the wild. And then to your point, the companies leveraging it themselves, which I'm sure goes back to your team because you're getting real-time feedback and you're kind of
100%.
entwined with them as well, right? So it's like, hey, how's it going? And because they're using your product and because it's the revenue is involved, your team is really forced to pay attention and understand the pain of the pain points and the gains of the optimization.
That's right. And I might choose a different word. I always say feedback's a gift. So I wouldn't say forced. We love it. And you have to do three things. And I think number one, you have to listen to the feedback. You look at it every single day, multiple times a day. You need to understand what the users are saying, their sentiment, how they're using it, and how do we improve it. It is not a set it and forget it. It is early on. So we are hyper focused on improvement and innovation. And number two is hyper personalization, because we know we have all the information, Ethan. We know what you're doing, when you're doing it, and who you're doing it for. So it needs to be a hyper-personalized experience. It's encapsulated within your workflow. And number three, you have to move AI from a black box to a glass box. And what I mean by that is people need to understand it. It's not magic, it's technology. And there we're creating an amazing experience on top of it. So we want to demystify and help people understand, be ethical, be transparent, make sure it's governed and it's following all of our policies and create accountability and have as I said, freedom within the framework, within the safety of that framework. So those three things are super key for leaders to get busy and be powerful with AI.
I'd love to touch upon, and then there's a number of places to go from there, but I'd love to touch upon the hyper personalization, because I feel like that is, the accessibility of AI is really what's kind of blown it up in the last 2 years. I would say, it's been around forever, but like really the accessibility and the applicability, and now the investment of companies into the infrastructure is really driving a behemoth that's really starting to form. Hyper personalization is something that there's a lot of room for it to grow. I'd love to hear more about your thoughts on it, like where you see it working, especially within what you're allowed to say within at ServiceNow.
Sure, absolutely. Well, gone are the days is I'm working on an HR problem, so I'm right here. That's not how you work. You don't work in verticals. No one out there does. Right? You're working in a very fast-paced world, and multiple things are happening at the same time. So we have to make sure that we're hyper-personalized. We understand the human you are, the work you need to be doing, and the work you have to do, right? And so we're able to look at that and then be able to serve up what you need. So I think an example is probably the best one to give. So for example, like our sales enablement platform provides hyper-personalization experience for our sellers, right? And it's powered with our database, right? Which is RaptorDB Pro. And if you haven't seen it in action or you want a demo, please, that thing is so fast. It is multiple times faster than any DB out there. So what it does is it brings together data, insights, and action, and the customer. So our sellers have more time focusing on that relationship and helping the customers. So that's a great example of the hyper personalization, because when everything the seller needs to know about what they're doing, the customer they're serving, the account they're working on, the area and the territory and the products they have, and helping them create a playbook for the next best actions for their customers. So that's one example of it. And I think we can continue to get better, because predictive, as you and I have talked about, we're already working on predictive. How do I know what you need to do before you do it, right? And so how can I just continue to guide you with the technology so you have more focus with the human? And I guess we always keep the human in the loop with Gen AI. I do want to say that, and with agentic AI, because the human in the loop is very important, because we are early on. And like I said, feedback, reviewing your data, and understanding that glass box, not a black box, is super important.
And I think that's super helpful in terms of like thinking through work, not as, hey, I am solving this problem. This is an HR problem. Now it's a company problem. It's a technology problem.
Yes.
How do you see that kind of shaping or changing the way we work in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, that's a great question.
That's not too far of a horizon. Maybe like a short term, and like maybe kind of 3 to 5 years, we'll have to see what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we're going to be collaborating with agentic and agents, right? And so I see, maybe 18 months, 2 years, right? Like we're going to have this reasoning and streamlined workflows that are predictive and autonomous with the human in the loop, right? I do want to say that to identify and solve problems of efficiency before we even know about the problem, right? How can it update and handle routine or mundane tasks to free employees up? So it's not about the work you're doing. It's about the work that needs to happen and reimagining the work. So I'd love to give you an example. We have a goal to have a zero service desk. So what that means is everything is an agent first. And our IT teams, it's just we want to support our IT teams and some of our internal teams, right, for our employees. So we'll have a human agent in the loop, but that experience can get requesters, right, people asking for information, and then fulfillers, right, our AI agents for our humans, right, and our employee requesters can get things done faster. And I think if you look at that requester and fulfiller, because we have AI for both, right, and we start to create more autonomy with those agents working together, just like humans work together.
Interesting.
With the human in the loop, that's transformational.
So you have the agents helping the agents. And
agents helping agents. Yes, we've even now I'm going really far out there. We're really far out there, right? We've demoed it, created it. Agents, runs into a problem and it'll create another agent to go help itself. Right. So that predictive, that proactive, that self-healing, self-learning, and self-handling is huge. So then you're in a workflow, the agents are doing the work, and then if it needs something, it can go create something within the framework that we've invented, right? So that's huge. Now we have to make sure that we're putting it to work for the right uses, of course, and in the right workflow, but we can totally free up people's time to go work on higher value tasks.
How does I kind of have this like just vision of like
lots of agents around.
Yeah, like almost like a scrum team of agents running agents. And so like
yes.
how like do you see your role changing or transforming in this world where potentially you are managing people and agents, right? So you almost like it's like what do you how do you envision that? How do you even like approach that as you're kind of thinking through what the future could look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our chief human resource officer and I have talked about this because we see teams. I'm going to have a team of humans, and then I'm going to have a team of agents that also help with the work and make the work happen. So we have to understand what these agentic experiences and these Gen AI agents are creating and doing, right? So I think it becomes more of, okay, we see this happening. Are there better ways? What is our customer sentiment? What is our employee sentiment? How do we need to reimagine or evolve? So that's really on the edge, right? That's where we're going. And I see us rethinking things, very often, right? We've got to stay very connected to what is happening because we cannot be set it and forget it, or we created these agents, checkbox, we're done. No, can't, right? We've got to create and keep inventing and keep an understanding of how these things are unifying and the outcomes that they're creating. So I'll keep you posted. Maybe we should do a follow-up in 9 months and see how all that's going.
Oh, when the world has totally changed again.
Totally.
I guess I'd love to continue the thread. It's just kind of a thought experiment, but like,
sure.
do you think about agent managers and would that role be different from like people managers? So would you have like some role that's like, hey, you're an agent manager and like you're in charge of running these agents, but you would probably would you be an IC or would you also be managing people alongside agents? Are they like?
All right. Well, I love this conversation. So a couple of things that we're doing, right? We have something called our AI control tower. And it's something that we also offer, that we'll be offering customers. And it helps us understand what the agents are doing, how we've adopted them, what's the value they're creating, is there friction they're creating, right? What's their interaction points? So to your point, you think about like a command center or control tower. That's how we're looking at it right now, because we need to make sure that we're connecting the dots across all those agents so that we understand, how that should be working and drive efficiency, but also drive experience, right? So that's what we've envisioned. helping people understand how do they take that control tower data from an AI control tower and then be able to interpret it and then change and adapt our business as we need to. So, do we have all the right structure sorted out? We're learning as we go. We reserve the right to get smarter every single day, and we are.
That's all. Yeah, and it's less the Wild West than it felt like a couple of years ago, but it's still very new. I guess when you think of in terms of adoption of technology and how long it takes for things to really become into play. I mean, even the App Store was out there for several years before apps became a daily part of our lives for mobile apps. So very much still very early days.
Well, and to that point, I just got off with my customer team yesterday, and I was doing an all hands with them that runs our customer support technology. And I was talking to them about, I don't need you to reimagine the work for what we're doing. I need you to reimagine the work for where we're going. And that adds a whole nother level of champagne or cake, right? Of complexity, because we have to think about, okay, how we're doing this, how we're managing it. To your point, right, we've got an army of agents now. Now, how do we drive and reimagine where we're going? So that's something that is in the forefront of our minds every single day. I wake up every single day thinking about that. And also managing the risk and the impacts to the people as well.
And I think when it comes to mind, when you know, as creating these agents, and I'd like to hear your perspective. It sounds like you have one, is that, it's a new technology, and in certain areas of the industry, not ServiceNow, but certain areas there's like shiny objects people are going to, and certain things are just like slapping AI onto an existing product and with varying degrees of success. But when you're thinking about agents and you think about, agents becoming more involved in the processes, how do you look at the outputs and ensuring that, like, hey, the agents that I'm creating are providing the value to the company that I'm expecting? It sounds like you had success in this initial launch. I'd love to maybe if we could double click into that a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I can give one more example too, and we are doing that because yes, it's outputs, but it's outcomes. So I look at the metric and then also the satisfaction and the experience, right? It's the whole package, because we can't just drive technology to expect a certain data point. I believe we failed if we're only doing that. Yes, of course, we have to drive value and expect those data points. However, we want to make sure that it's a great experience for someone like you, Ethan, right? A great experience for an employee like myself. So that's our goal, right? And so how do we do that is we take a look at, so one example is, some of our lower level cases, we applied AI to them. And because they're more of mundane tasks, right? More administrative tasks. And we've seen those double digits improve, right? So double digit efficiency improve. Well, also, I mean, the sentiment of our support engineers is awesome. They're like, this is great. We love it. Give me more. How can I use this? Like one quote, something off the top of my head is, the agent picked it up, ran with it, came up with an answer and presented it to me. All I did was review and said yes, and then our customer's problem was solved. That's an amazing sentiment for both the customer and the employee. So I think yes, it's a great data point that it's a double digit improvement of some of those things, right? Like almost 15%. But the sentiment, wow, it was faster and wow, it was easier. That's winning on all levels.
I mean, it sounds like you guys are really making some big strides in this area. Do you have advice for, leaders who may not be as far along, or their companies aren't, as much at the forefront, and what they can be thinking about and how they can start approaching it?
Yes, absolutely. We're a technology company. That's our job, right? We're expected, and I have a very high bar internally, and we have to stay on the cutting edge. And what I would encourage leaders out there doing, you have to embrace the AI from a competitive perspective. You have to understand it and know, and I say no, it can accelerate your business and accelerate your value. So understand it, dig deep, right? Get to that glass box I talked about, and then understand your business deeply. Because if you, from a technology perspective, you understand what technology can do and you understand your business, you'll understand the applicability across multiple areas. And that's winning, right? Because you create scalability and extensibility for the technology. And I'm a big product mindset person. I love driving, and again, you heard it earlier, user-centric design. So we're always designing and creating for the user in mind. So don't lose sight of your audience or your user, because that's the ultimate person that's adopting it. Because your adoption numbers, everybody listening out there, your adoption numbers speak volume of technology experience and how the value is driven. And then also simplify and collaborate, right? Break down complex problems, start out of the box, put it to work. Just get busy and put it to work and start small and just give it a try and give yourself a little grace, right? Know that that's a test and learn process and you get smarter every day.
Yeah, and I think something that strikes a chord here is what your internal knowledge is of your industry. So, don't expect it, at least in the current form for AI, to solve the industry problem for you. It's going to solve
Right.
a process problem. It'll bring improvements to you. Don't, like you right now, at least 2025 today, February 6th. Humans are still better at having the context and knowing the industry ebbs and flows, and your business probably better than the machine will, but it can help you in slices. And I think at TED AI, you mentioned slices. Could you speak a little bit about that? And maybe that's a way that some
Yeah,
other leaders can also
absolutely.
think about as
Right.
well.
Yeah, that's a great point because as you're starting small, I talked about you need to be unified across everything. Yes, that's the goal. It's okay to start in a function. Start in that function and then connect it with another function or duplicate it in a different function, right? So starting small it works, and then grow your success, grow your confidence, grow your abilities, and then be able to perpetuate that across. And I think also creating a platform and a foundation that's unified will make your life a lot easier as well. And that's because out there we all have multiple different technologies, right? And so we have to think about how do we do that without ripping everything out and starting over, because that's just not, as a practitioner, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And people out there need solutions that they can put on top of and work with all of the technology they have. Fortunately, ServiceNow is a very flexible platform that can do that. And that's part of the reason we run the company on it. And I think that, to your point, the slices, you can start small and then make sure you have a platform that's scalable and extensible that'll grow with you across your business.
That's incredible. I'm going to follow it up with probably the hardest
Oh,
question
dear.
for here.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah,
What kind of
we're
cake do I like? No, I'm just kidding.
all right. Favorite ice cream? No, it's we call this Turbocharge Tomorrow for a reason.
Yep.
It's about actionable insights. So Kellie, is there one thing that you could have technology leaders start thinking about today that they could do tomorrow? So narrow it down to one practical
One
takeaway.
thing. Okay. So one thing I would recommend: create or buy, use a platform and a foundation for success by investing in scalable infrastructure and a platform. So you have to be scalable across your platform and your infrastructure. And why does that matter? Right? AI is the future. It starts with data and it ends with experience, and that's all connected. Right? So you always start with data. You're creating AI, and you end with experience. So if you have the right data infrastructure, you can create those hyper personalized experiences that we talk about that people love. And then you've got a awesome digitally fluent workspace and workforce to adapt to grow and scale your business.
That's fantastic. And it goes back to what we mentioned before about now that the role is more horizontally based across different aspects of the business. So to your point, it has to be scalable horizontally across, marketing and operations and, development and all the other, sales, all the different aspects of the organization need to be able to leverage it, because it's going to, if it's not already, it'll start being not just seeping into their daily lives, but becoming a significant tool slash, partner slash
Totally.
co-pilot that they'll be using every day.
100%. And I've worked at some big places, Hilton and Walmart included, and that was so important. Lots of associates and team members at both those places in creating that unity and that unified experience, because you're talking about people all over the world. You're meeting them where they are, and it creates magic for your employees and helps them serve their customers better.
That is, I couldn't think of a better note to end on. We've been talking with Kellie Romack. She's the Chief Digital and Information Officer at ServiceNow. Thank you so much for joining us, Kellie. This has been great.
Oh, it's super fun. Thank you. And, we'll check back in a few months and see what other great stories we have to tell.
Sounds terrific. Looking forward to it. Thanks so much,
Take care.
Kellie.
Bye.
Bye.